find that. So Robbie has said, "Hey Robbie, where is the best place to buy gas?" Binance. Yeah, go to Binance, mate. So if you're ever uncertain, there is one second. I'm just trying to find the video for you. In the crypto video course on my YouTube channel, there is a video which shows you, how to find certain things. But if you go to CoinMarketCap, where you can literally see any crypto, there is a little tab that says Markets, and then it will show you what it's on. But yeah, you buy gas, and you need to buy it via Bitcoin. So that's that. Sorry, folks. It's 12 o'clock. I'm aware. I'm just trying to find the previous questions from yesterday. Here we go. So Robbie also asked yesterday, how can we benefit from negative rates? So it's hard to benefit directly from negative rates. I think the only thing you can do really is to protect yourself from negative rates. So if you're a saver, you're absolutely screwed with negative rates. So what you should try and do is end up being in an asset which somewhat benefits from negative rates. So what tends to happen is rates go negative, lending is increased, or somewhat, because everyone goes, wow, it's really cheap to borrow money. And then a lot of the time, the money that is borrowed, all that cheap credit, simply ends up in the stock market, and then somewhat filters down into the property market. So I think we may see tiny localized property booms in certain sectors. It won't just be the whole thing. It could be, it could just be buy-to-let, or it could be commercial to resi conversions, or whatever. But stock markets, because what happens is big companies go, wow, it's like free to borrow money now. So they borrow the money and then they just buy back their own shares. So it's corporate buybacks, which is the only thing propping up the market right now. So that was that. So Kamran Khalik said yesterday, how to understand crypto better, Siam. I have a book called The Crypto Book. It's worth listening to on Audible. And there's like a 70+ video crypto investing course on YouTube on my channel. So that's that. Right. Okay, so I think that's... Oh, and Amanda said, I heard that UBI was being tested in somewhere in the UK. Yeah, UBI has been tested in pretty much every country on the planet. Or of pretty much every developed nation on the planet, in certain small villages. But yeah. Right, okay, I think that's enough for the previous questions. It's now 12:03. We've got 27 people here on Facebook. And hey, Eva on Clubhouse. Right, so let's start off with today. So I have a friend, and the friend is called Sam Huetson, and we've been chums for a good number of years now. And he's an interesting fella. And so I think it's I thought it was interesting to get him live and for me to sort of probe his brain, because he's a great business owner, and he's a modest chap. So I'm not I'm gonna be asking some pretty straight questions. And Sam, if there are any questions which you can't answer or whatever, just say I can't comment or whatever, or if it's too private, like,
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
But so just to put things in context, before we get off into the serious stuff, Sam and I have a very interesting bet this year. And basically, we've been playing golf with each other for what, 5 or 6 years now, or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I remember one day he scored a hole-in-one. Literally, I've never seen a hole-in-one in my life, but I was there. It was at Sprowston Manor in Norwich, and he freaking fluked. He got a hole-in-one, and it was amazing. Anyway, so Sam, for the last number of years, has always been a better golfer than me. And that's because I'm a fair weather golfer. So typically what happens is, from April till October, whenever it's sunny, I'll go and play a round of 18. I may have the odd, practice ground, sort of 100 balls or so. But I've worked out every year I probably do maybe a 10 rounds, let's say I average 100 shots a round, I probably hit a golf ball, about 1,000 times a year. And therefore, Sam has consistently remained better than me. And he used to play a lot when he was younger. And so this year, 2021, we have a bet. And the bet is that I can beat him at a round of golf, scratch, no handicap, just mano a mano. And the prize money is £1,000 cash. Okay? Because he thinks it's so ridiculous that I can beat him. And I think... and so what I'm going to do is, I've got an idea. When I win the £1,000 from him, I'm going to create a piece of art called the Huetson Humiliation. And I'm going to get that £1,000 in £5 notes. And I'm going to make a massive piece of art. I'm going to frame it. And then I'm going to take screenshots of all the smack talk he's been saying in our WhatsApp group about how he's going to smash me. So... And the little thing I've got up my sleeve is that since January, I've been doing a minimum of 100 chips a day, minimum. And there's some days I've done 1,000 chips. And I worked out earlier that I've done 15,000 chips since January. Sam, does that scare you?
To be honest, I'm very slightly worried you're probably getting a bit better. So as long as I don't have an off day, I'm confident I will take home £1,000. So, yeah, no, I still back myself in this one, fully.
Oh, look at him, all modest. Like, you should see him in the WhatsApp group. This is a different Sam we're seeing here today. Anyway, let's get on with the business. So yeah, one of the things which I found that I found interesting amongst some of my friends which have really nice businesses that are growing nicely, etc., is that they are not fancy. Everyone seems to think, they see Snapchat and TikTok and all these other things, and people think they have to create like an original business idea. But I've got a friend who runs a refuse collection business and is booming it. I've got another friend who runs, in fact, another garbage type business and a whole bunch of sort of industrial businesses. They're not sexy at all. And I think Sam has really nailed it, because he is in an unsexy industry and he's doing absolutely amazing. So, Sam, who are you? Like, for the people here that don't know you, like, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, no, excellent. So, I run a company with my brother called Bearing Boys, and very simply, we are an online retailer of bearings and transmission products and engineering consumables. So we are the middlemen. We don't manufacture anything ourselves. We represent the manufacturers and we sell their products on to the end users. We started off with a vision to do most of that online, and through our online platform we've now had over 150,000 customers transact with us, and that's taken 15 years. We're in financial year 15 right now, but we've literally taken it from zero to 150,000 customer transactions through our online platform. Now, if we were selling t-shirts or something really basic every day, that would probably seem just quite an average number, but I'm guessing most of you haven't even ever heard of a company that sells bearings and power transmissions, so we think we've done pretty well to get 150,000 people to do a transaction with us online, and many of these customers are now returning, and we're obviously able to scale the business because we are building upon business within those customers and now taking it to the next level, and that's really stepped up a gear. Probably from, we started life in 2006, and I think in 2016 we were only on 2.2 million. We've done a few things, changed a few things, and we're we're now gone from 2.2 in 2016, and we're likely to hit between 5.5 to 6 million revenue this year. I'm more confident now I've seen this sort of half-year figures. It's going to be 6 million, but 5.5 million at worst, I would say. 6 million more likely.
Amazing. And how many staff do you have, mate?
So 26. 26. So I like to refer to them as colleagues.
Okay, colleagues.
Because we have a great team, and some of the changes we've made there is also very much the reason why we're now hitting these figures. And also, probably over the next couple of years, our aim is very much to take the business up to 10 million revenue and beyond. So, yeah, we've got some fairly hefty targets in place.
I like that. Colleagues, the term colleagues is a much nicer word than staff. I like that.
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
So our head office is in Norwich, and we also now have a further branch in Scotland. So Scotland is a really good area for us, and it was never the plan to have branches, but Scotland warrants us having a branch there, because there's just certain things with courier times and lead times. It's just more effective to have a base in Scotland to ensure a smoother arrival of goods to the customers in that area.
Nice. And when you were at school, did you want to grow up selling ball bearings?
No, when I was at school, I wanted to leave, and I used to tell girls in nightclubs that I was a stockbroker, because I knew they wouldn't understand what a ball bearing was, and if I said to them I sell ball bearings, as you can imagine, that doesn't sound very sexy whatsoever. So I tended to, in the early years, I left that part out of my chat-up lines for sure.
And how old were you when you started with your brother?
21. So perhaps actually just to give some context, it's probably worth me mentioning, even way back to school, I was probably one of those typical people who didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. But one thing I did know even back then was I did actually quite enjoy working. So you mentioned our golf connection, and for me, probably something that had a big impression on me was when I was 11 years old. My mum and dad I was one of 4 boys, and naturally they wanted to keep us from getting into all kinds of trouble that young boys would. So they thought it would be a good idea for us to join the local golf club, because they had a thriving junior section, and it wasn't overly expensive for a junior. It was sort of £70 a year, get some second-hand equipment, and off you go. So but the thing was, they weren't just going to let us, they were going to fund the first year, and then it was very much up to us to fund the rest. So 11 years old, I went out and got a paper round, £10 a week, 6 a.m, 7 days a week. I was off cycling on my bike, delivering papers.
Brutal.
So that was but that was to fund what became my hobby. So golf, as you know, I love golf, and to stay in that junior section year after year, upgrade my equipment, I had to keep that paper round job to fund that, basically. But that led to the golf led to me doing caddying, and but I suppose the first moment that I really realised that I perhaps wanted to get into business was on a Wednesday in the summer holidays. I turned up to caddy, and I was waiting for the guy I was caddying for to turn up in the car park, and in-roll the Aston Martins, the Bentleys, the Porsches, and the first thing that went through my mind was it's a Wednesday. These guys, they weren't retired. They were sort of, mid-40s, rolling up to play golf on a Wednesday when I knew that my parents were working.
Mm.
So that was the first time I had a trigger in my mind that said, hang on a minute, what are these guys doing that perhaps my parents or other people's parents aren't? And it turned out all of them were business owners, and quite an array of businesses, and actually spending time around them over time, you start to understand and learn in small chunks little bits that I believe, looking back now, I think that helped shape where things went. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. Everyone has their sort of trigger moment in their life with things.
Yeah, so that was my trigger moment. And then just before I started my first job in bearings, I was still at school, but I did work for a couple of large chains. I worked for Sports Soccer. That was the one that comes to mind, and they were a big national chain, retail, and it just gave me some experience, of systems and processes. I worked with a lot of different people across a very wide age span. There was young people, there was older people within the business. That store, I worked in one of the sort of flagship stores, and there was a great manager. There was a lady called Michelle, who was the manager back then, and the assistant manager was a guy called James, and they were just great people who, they seemed to command the respect of the staff. They were always on the front line, and those two just really stood out in my memory as people that I thought, one day if I end up in a management role or in some kind of business where I need managers, these are the type of people that I would want to work with or be working in my organisation. So, I think I actually had quite a bit of background in some senses before I even turned 16 and left school to work full time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then the job in bearings came through the golf connection. So, I knew someone who ran a medium-sized business, and I went and started from the very bottom and learned all about bearings for 4 years. I worked for that company for 4 years.
Yeah.
I learned everything from an internal point of view, and then I moved to a bigger national company, again in bearings and transmissions, and I worked in sales on the road for them. So at the age of 20, they gave me a car and a phone and sent me off around the country to some of their key accounts.
You're basically learning the ropes. Yeah. So cool. I had the benefit of not only actually working in a couple of very large organisations when I was fairly young, but then I didn't wake up one day and just become a bearing boy. Yeah.
There was quite a good learning curve there over a sort of 5-year period, and I was
So for those that are listening, Bearing Boys is basically Amazon, but for ball bearings and transmissions, etc. So so you and your brother decided to start, and you're boom, we started. What happened in the first year? Like, how did you get going in year one? Because that's where I guess most people listen to this are, I guess, early on in their business journey, and it's that first year which is an absolute killer. I mean, how did you get traction?
Yeah, so I would say the first 2 or 3 years was really difficult. Year one especially so. So the way we set it up is, again, we were quite lucky in the sense that at the time there was only one other company online selling bearings, and they were only selling a few bearings. So we launched selling bearings and transmissions. The two actually go hand in hand, and anywhere using bearings is very normally using transmissions. So we went in with both products, but we had to build this platform from scratch, and we initially signed up to one of these. It's like a create your own website where they give you all the basics and you upload products and fill in all the blanks. You've got your e-commerce all set up in the background. So Will sat in, and this was in Will's flat, by the way. He worked from his sofa in his flat building that, and I did what I knew best at the time and got in a car and drove around to all the users locally and tried to get us some custom to just see us through whilst we were building the website. Now, in hindsight, it would have been a bit more sensible to stay in our jobs a bit longer and build that website perhaps in the evenings, at weekends, but we were quite hungry and had a lot of desire, and we just decided to go for it. You know, we wanted to go all in rather than just parting. So and also I suppose what, again, not a lot of people know, so in that first 18 months I worked at another job. So I said I worked for a couple of big organisations. I worked at Sainsbury's in the evenings.
Nice.
So the way the platform was laid out was only one of you could really work on it at once without crashing it. So we needed money, and Will was naturally better on the computer side of things. So he sat in the evenings. So we worked during the day. I went out and sold. He worked on the website, took some incoming phone calls. But come 6 o'clock in the evening, I went off to work at Sainsbury's. So 4 nights a week, I did from 6 till midnight.
Yeah.
And Will spent that time from 6 till midnight working on the website.
Yeah.
And I worked all day Sunday. So I had a Sunday off Bearing Boys, but I worked all day at Sainsbury's. So,
nice.
And then at the end of each month, I would go to the cash machine, withdraw that money, and split it 50-50 between the two of us. So we were obviously only able to draw teeny weeny bits of money from the business. So that was our sort of food covered, and maybe just a few small bills.
Nice. And oh, sorry, carry on.
But no, I was just going to say, but so for me, something that I suppose I found hard at the time, because I'd gone and said to all my friends, you know, you call me and Will, we're going to start our own business, and I think they were all thinking, of course, you know, Sam and Will, you know, they're starting their own business, it's going to be amazing. And then one evening, probably 2 months in, a couple of my friends came into Sainsbury's, and I hadn't told people, you know, I was still working my evening job at Sainsbury's. And I think something stuck with them, and I could see they were thinking, well, hang on a minute, Sam's just started a great business apparently. Obviously, cool, that's not going too well if he's still working in Sainsbury's. And I didn't really understand, and to be honest, I couldn't really explain it to them either, but I think people just have this impression you start a business and within a few months or even within a year, you're going to be making loads of money and playing golf all day on a golf course or doing what you want to do. It's nothing like that whatsoever. And it, you know, it's probably only been the last few years that I've being able to step away from a business a bit and have more freedom. But in the first couple of years, it was just solid work and graft and no time off, no holidays.
Yeah.
You draw less money than you've ever earned in your life. At one point, I thought I should probably get my paper round back. So the first year, I think we turned over just shy of £100,000 profit. I think we made probably about £30,000, but
cool.
By the time you minus some costs and things, as you know, it's not exactly living life to the max. The second year, we did get more traction, and I think we turned over $250,000.
Nice.
We had moved into our first premises, which we did need to sort of allow for that expansion. So a small office with a little warehouse attached to it, probably only 800 square feet. And then it was year 2. I think we sat down with our accountant, and he said to us, I really don't see the business working in the long term. If I were you two, I would consider perhaps changing course unless you can really turn this thing around. To him, the numbers weren't making sense. There wasn't enough profit there. He felt we were taking on too many costs. But luckily, by year 3, he disagreed and completely retracted that statement because we then jumped from we jumped from the 250 up to the 500 in year 3, and then there was clearly looking a healthier picture in terms of profits.
And how long did it take to hit 1 million?
How many people?
No, how many years from the beginning?
So how many years? 5.
5.
So 5.
Yeah,
so we went 500 to 800,000,
nice.
And then we hit just over 1 million in year 5. Yeah. So that would have been 2011. Yeah. Nice.
See, this is the thing which I think a lot of people need to sort of understand, is that business is not a quick thing. A lot of people expect, they watch like a Gary Vee or Grant Cardone video and go 10x baby, and expect to be a millionaire in like 2 minutes flat. But nearly every single business owner I know their business started really running from sort of year 5 onwards. And it takes like the first 5 years to really get your, figure out what the hell you're doing. And even Brian Marcel, who we interviewed last week, and he's doing 50 mil revenue at the moment. He said it took him 15 years to hit 1 mil revenue. And so I think that success leaves clues, and Sam is no exception here. And he said 5 years to hit 1 million, and then I guess from once he breached that 1 million thing, was it then a bit of a springboard?
It did, yeah. So it springboarded quite quickly. So I think by 2016 we were on about 2.2 million, because I remember that stands out to me, because I had a significant meeting in 2016, and then that was really the springboard to where we are now. So
was that the Alan Sugar meeting?
Yeah. Nice. So 2011 to 2016, we slowly went through, I think 1.2, 1.3. We worked our way just up over the 2 million mark to 2.2, and then, but I could feel it. We could both feel the business sort of slowing. We were slowing down into that. So we were very pleased with getting through the 1 million mark by year 5, but actually over the next 5 years we were a little bit disappointed to still only be on 2.2.
But was your profitability getting better, or was it still the same?
No, the margin has always stayed in line with the turnover. But what changed? What happened is we got to year 5 and we got to that 1.1 million and had a pat on the back and thought, we've done really well here. But we actually went back and ripped a lot of stuff up and redid it. So we had to actually redo most of our entire platform, because at that point, the bigger picture for us was we didn't want to be a £1 or £2 million company. We were still thinking sort of 10, 20 million and beyond. And we realised that the platform we were working with was never going to be able to facilitate where we wanted to go. We basically did not set it up as well as we should have done on day one. So we set up on day one thinking about getting to £1 million, and not actually thinking about, well, the bigger picture is 10, 20 million beyond. We were thrilled to get to £1 million, but then we realised, well, actually, this platform is not going to facilitate us, moving on much past the 2 million mark. So, so we had to go back and actually change a lot of things, and it was soul destroying, because we'd spent many evenings building that website, and we had to deconstruct it all and start virtually all over again. One of the obviously the biggest lessons we have learned is there was other things we had to change as well with our stock system, with the way our purchasing system worked, is to take extra time at the start to set things up in a way that they're going to be able to facilitate where you want to be eventually. At the time, you might think you're putting in far too many layers and far too many protocols and systems, but believe me, it will pay way more to do it at the start than it would do to have to come back and retweak. So that's
nice. And I think one of the things that you've really nailed, because and at the end of the day, folks, I guess Bearing Boys is an e-commerce platform, and I've been clicking around. I've put the link to his biz in the Facebook chat. I've been clicking around his website for the last few minutes, and it's really fast. And I think with e-commerce, you absolutely need to be really fast. Like, I'm clicking on a Loctite gel or whatever, and it loads straight away. And I've got shitty internet, and so I think you've done really. How did you get the site so fast?
Yeah, so I'm not the most technical on the website side of things, but I do know it's hosted, I believe, by 3 or 4 different locations. So we've always got. So even what happened in the early days is a server used to drop out somewhere, and our internet would crash. Our site would crash. We couldn't take any orders. But now it's hosted by 3 or 4 different locations.
Okay.
So the speed is due to obviously down to the hosting. As I say, I've got a guy who looks after that side of things. So I have to admit, I'm not the most technical on the speed size, but I know we put in a lot to that system. The system we have was custom built for us as well, so it's not one of these off the shelf packages that you can sort of get for £50 a month. Cool. We built that from scratch.
Okay. And going back a bit, so what were the key nuggets that you took away from when you spent an hour or two with Sir Alan Sugar?
Yeah, so as I said, I felt we'd become a little bit stale again, in the sense that the growth was really going slow. So we were only growing by, at that point, a few 100,000 in revenue per year. But I think the main trick we were missing was, at this point, in terms of staff, we had always tried to recruit from outside the industry because it's cheaper. So we could bring someone in, spend 6 months training them, and then really hope that they like it enough and want to stay with us. And over a couple of years, that person can become very competent. And some of our best members of staff now have come from that method. So, but what he said to us is, look, you're doing 2.2 million. If you really, we gave him a bit of a background on the competition, the size of the market, etc. It was very simple to him that we now needed to go and cherry pick the best people we could find within our industry who were probably more skillful than us. So, as I say, I've always predominantly done sales and been the main salesperson for the business. But we now have people in the organisation who are far better at selling than I am, because they are specialists in that area. We now have people within the business who are far better managers than what we are. So me and Will are very good at delivering the strategy and where we want the business to go, but day-to-day management is certainly not my strong point, and I think Will would agree, probably not his. And we now have great managers. So we did, after that meeting, we went out and we purposely looked for the best people in our industry, and we have brought them in. We brought them into the business, and we're continuing to bring people into the business from our industry who can really help us propel it to that next level. And when you bring someone in with real quality, who's got lots of experience, they hit the ground running. You don't have, other than a week's induction to get them used to your system, you know, they instantly bring business and revenue, and they're out driving sales. It's an instant return. It does cost more, but the returns far outweigh the cost.
Okay. Nice.
So that was really sort of one of the key takeaways. There was a few other little pointers. I did make some notes last night about that, but I'll be honest, I have no idea where I've put them.
Okay, so like I'm obsessed with business nuggets and learning points. So I guess if you were speaking to, I guess, a whole bunch of people who are very early on, so been in business less than 3 years, or they're still in a job but they're wanting to jump on side, what tips, what advice would you give them? Bit of a broad question.
First, that's. I think people dwell a lot on when is the right time to start a business. So I think I would agree. So generally, statistically, you would stand a better chance of succeeding first time if you've had some experience within the industry, you know, you're planning to go into. I would also say, secondly, you stand probably a better chance if you have had quite a broad base of experience, whether that be working for some small business. So I in my younger years, I worked for smaller businesses, I worked for big businesses, and I feel I learned quite a lot just from that, you know, my time at those companies. So that said, it does, you know, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have those things, but I think statistically you would probably stand a better chance if you at least have some of those experiences. But that said, I don't believe there is a right time to start. There's always going to be situations going on in your life where, you know, the timing's not quite perfect. You know, if I could just sort these few things out over the next couple of months, I'll start it then. Because even when you start, as we found out, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be any easier if you put it off. It will be easier if you've got some of those experiences. But probably when I started in 2006, there wasn't stuff like what you do now, Siam. So with the WAP, but, you know, I couldn't access any tools. So there was probably a few videos floating around on YouTube all the way back then, maybe sort of Gary V, but, you know, it wasn't it wasn't very well sort of publicised. So there is a lot more information, I feel, now for people to get started and to maybe eliminate some of those early day problems. But even still, you're going to have issues. You know, we had some cash flow issues in the first year. We got away, you know, we got very, very lucky actually. We were 3 or 4 months in, and we basically got an order for the bank account was running dry, and we got an order came in from quite a big company for £20,000, and they were happy to pay us up front. So we got 60 days credit from our supplier. They paid us up front, and so that bank rolled us for quite a few more months whilst we got out of that pickle. So that one order actually probably avoided a very, very different outcome. So you have, there is a little bit of luck to it, but also, you know, we were working desperately hard at the time. Some of that luck you obviously create yourselves. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I worked the first year or 18 months. I worked, continued working at Sainsbury's whilst getting the business off the ground. And, you know, I had mates walking in and sort of buying stuff and probably thinking, Sam's business isn't going too well, is it? You know, he's still here, still working at Sainsbury's. But these are just things you have to do, you know, unless you've got a big wad of cash to go and start a business. You know, there's sort of other ways you have to approach it, I believe.
So Stuart Roberts has asked, how have you found staff retention, and what tips do you have for making them feel valued? It's a great question.
Yeah, so...
Because you've got some long-serving colleagues, haven't you?
We have, yeah. So, well, I think, as I refer to them, colleagues, they are your you know, most important asset. We do reward our staff quite well, I must say. I would always rather pay a little bit more to as I said, to have someone. In the early days, we tried to get away with just sort of paying very little for staff and hoping we could sort of bring in someone young and hungry, train them up, you know, and sort of get away with it on the cheap a little bit. It didn't work. They didn't want to stay. You do have to offer a little bit more, but also not everyone's driven by money, and some people just want to know they're working towards a goal. So some of the businesses I worked at, you know, like some of the big businesses, when I worked at Sports Direct, they were very good at sharing. You know, every day you came in, there was a figure up on the board. You know, this is what we're looking to achieve in store today. This is how many shoes we're looking to sell. This is how many. So you have to give the staff targets, but you also have to share with them what the goals of the company are, where it's going, because they have to buy into that as well.
Yeah.
And if they feel that, if they know that, I think they're likely to stick around a lot longer. And to be honest, it's worth sharing all of that at the beginning, because if they don't like it, you'd rather them stand up and walk away then than 6 months down the line when you've all wasted a lot of time.
Yeah. So, hopefully that helps, Stuart. One of the the cool things that you've done, Sam, which has impressed me, and I think it makes a really good point for everyone else. So you sort of mentioned people dwelling on, should I do this, should I not? And again, there are a lot of people that I am aware of that have been threatening to set up a business for years, and 5 years later they still haven't set up a business. Not for lack of wanting, but just analysis paralysis. They're too scared, etc., etc. And I guess you were the perfect example of just freaking doing it, because in fact, tell us about Tackle Boys, because that was amazing. Basically, in fact, yeah, you do it. What made you do Tackle Boys, and what is it? Just quickly.
Yeah, so quickly what that is. So basically, on the industrial estate where Bearing Boys is located, I used to walk across to get my lunch every day from the cafe, and there was a big business behind us that used to fill up an Arctic lorry every single night. And after a few days, I remember asking someone, who are those guys there who fill up an articulated lorry every night full of goods? And someone said they sell fishing supplies online. And I was like, wow, we're in the wrong business. We were filling up a transit van every night, but certainly not an Arctic lorry. So anyway, I didn't think much of that, but it stuck in my mind, and carried on. And then it was just a chance conversation a few months further down the line where a couple of guys who I knew, again, I play a bit of golf with them, know them from sort of the pub, and I saw them sort of looking at eBay one day and just said, what are you guys doing? And they said, we're just looking at our sales. We've sold a few fishing bits. I said, right. I said, what fishing bits are you selling? And a conversation got going, and one of them was a very keen fisherman, and he got on very well with a company that sells manufacturers fishing gear, and he set up a small eBay shop selling some of these more generic items. So me and Will were together that day, and we said, well, have you guys ever thought about doing this online in a proper web shop, not just eBay? And we said, obviously, what came to our mind straight away is we saw the pound signs of that company very close to us that fill up an Arctic lorry every night. And we started having visions of filling up our own lorry of fishing gear every night and sending it off all around the country. So, yeah, the idea was just born from that, really. So we tested the water. We opened a very, very small shop to begin with, and we carried on the eBay. We got a few more products in just to see if it would work.
When you say shop, online shop or physical shop?
So we set up a very small physical shop because it was right next to the Broads. And what we wanted to do, we brought a few more products in just to test, I suppose, the market, to see, if there was quite a few tackle fishing shops in the area. So we wanted to see if a physical store would work with an online store. So we were sort of testing the physical side out. And then, so what happened was, it did start to work. And but again, like anything, the little shop we set up was far too small. So once we knew there was some legs in it, some traction, what me and Will did is, I suppose where our skill set is on the online side and creating that platform, we started to create the platform for Tackle Boys. But it does work very, that industry still works very well with a physical store as well. And I suppose the overall goal for that business is to eventually have a flagship store in Norfolk, Norwich, somewhere. At the minute, we've got a fairly good-sized store in Attleborough, where we've got a lot of stock and we do a lot of revenue. Obviously, COVID did at the apple cart quite a bit this year.
Yeah.
It's had to revert more to click and collect, but we've managed to carry on doing some trading, but obviously not the sort of numbers we would have hoped. And we're still very much developing the online side of that business. So this time we very much want to get things right from the beginning. So we're just taking a little bit more time. The online side is starting to come together now, but we're just making sure we don't have to go back at any stage. Because if we get this right, and if it does start to go well, it will start to roll very quickly. We don't want to be in a situation where we have to come back and change a load of stuff, because obviously we're busy now. We're really busy with Bearing Boys, and obviously having another business, adds a bit more pressure. So, yeah, with this, it's going well. I think it's year 3 now. It's gone really fast, actually. The physical store is doing about $250,000. So it could have been doing quite a bit more had we not been affected by COVID. And the online side at the minute is very, very small. But as I say, we're just getting a few things perfect before we fully start to advertise and launch that properly.
So I've put the link in the in the chat as well, and I've just been clicking through your website. It's great because it's like a carbon copy of Bearing Boys. It's blisteringly fast, which is handy. But let's just go back a bit because remember, most people are not in business and they get stuck in the dwelling part, and they're like, and you very casually went, oh yeah, we just set up a shop in the Broads, whatever. Like, let's put a magnifying glass over that. I mean, didn't you go to a shop with a whole bunch of fishing rods and say, "Hey, sale or return"?
Yeah, so
talk about that bit.
That was my I call that my apprentice moment when you watch The Apprentice on BBC Two or whatever it is. So yeah, we had no revenue, but what to supplement that little physical store, we did need some cash flow. So. I came up with an idea. There was a particularly large boat company that obviously runs holidays, and I just took a drive down there in the car, and I took along a fishing rod, and it's just a very basic rod and a reel, and I figured, well, if loads of people are coming on holiday in the Broads, some of them are going to want to try doing a little bit of fishing. Now, there was a store at the time in Wroxham, and I think it is still there. I'm not entirely sure. So what people would do is they'd start off further down, and they would eventually end up in Wroxham, come across this fishing shop and think, we'll buy some rods and a bit of bait and we'll do some fishing the next few days. So I went straight to the source where people turn up for the holiday just before they get on the boat, and I went to the boat company and said, look, give it a try. I'll just leave you 10 rods. Here's what I think you could retail them for. Here's what they cost. Just stick them here, give it a try. I think you'll sell these. You've got people turning up for holiday. Kids are going to be excited. They're going to see this fishing rod and say, can we buy a fishing rod and do some fishing? And for £20-25 or whatever it was retail, I could see that parents being on holiday would probably just go, yeah, let's grab a couple and give it a go. And it worked. I think that summer we sold potentially 400 rods, I think. That might have been over the whole season. Yeah, so we sold a lot. So literally within a couple of days of me delivering the first 10, they rang up and ordered, another 40, 50 rods straight away. And that just provided that little bit of revenue we needed just to get that little business up and running. Just one deal essentially just gave us a bit of cash flow and took a bit of pressure off.
And that's why I think it's such a pertinent story for everyone here, because you didn't fanny around going, oh, will it work, will it not? You simply got a bunch of rods, you went to the boat, so you're clever with who you approached, as in the boat company, so that's the really smart thing there, and you did sail or return. So the boat company had zero risk, and they could make a little uplift. And so you're basically aligning incentives, so you win and they win. And the fact that it worked, that then gave you sort of proof of concept to then grow it. And I think that's where most people they stop. You just need to do anything quickly just to get proof of concept to see, does it work? And then obviously So where did you set up the shop though? Was it like a physical shop in Wroxham or somewhere?
So it was in Colchester. So it was right near the Broads. It's only a very small unit by. You've got sort of the King's Head pub and the other pub on the waterfront. I forget what it's called now, but it was just there. It was just literally wedged between the two, and that was a good location because you had people pulling up there on the boats all day long for drinks. So anyone who may have missed getting a rod at the
the boat company.
The boat, sorry, yep, would then have a second chance if they rocked up there. We did also I did then roll that out a bit further across the Broads. There was another store that took quite a few rods, not as many, but again, it wasn't a bad return, and he actually ended up buying some other more generic fishing products from us as well to stock in his shop. So nice. There's lots of ways. It's a bit like when I was 16. I wanted to earn a bit of extra money, and I had an idea just on my little estate. I just do a little bit of window cleaning. I didn't have any ladders or a bucket or a roof rack required for my car, so I wasn't going to buy that without knowing I couldn't have any customers. So I literally spent a day knocking on people's doors, telling them I was a window cleaner and asking them if they wanted their windows cleaned. And once I knew I had enough people, I then went and brought the ladders and the roof rack and my bucket and equipment. But I'll be honest there, I was a rubbish window cleaner, and after about 6 months, that wasn't my bag. So I gave that one up pretty quickly. But I had a brand new set of ladders and a bucket for cleaning my own windows, which wasn't too bad. So yeah.
Nice.
But there's lots of ways, isn't there, to sort of test the market or go out and try a few things, and if it doesn't work, you've lost nothing but maybe a little bit of time.
Awesome.
As long as,
Okay, so this is we're approaching an hour now. So this is the last chance, folks. If you have a question, please pop your hand up in Clubhouse or pop them in the Facebook chat. But yeah, it's been. Oh yeah, the other thing I underlined here is capital arbitrage. So this is something which came naturally for you, and it does with some business owners. But when you got that massive order for 20 grand, and you're up shit's creek basically, and the fact that you took the 20 grand and then got 60-day terms with your supplier, that's a classic use of capital arbitrage. So you basically it is like getting a 20 grand loan for 60 days. Was it interest free effectively? Basically, yeah,
basically. But this is where we were lucky as well. Well, not lucky, but we in the very early days we had two companies that really backed us. Not a lot of companies would actually give us the time of day when we first started, but two companies gave us. Not just the time of day, but they gave us credit terms where most people wouldn't. Both of them actually gave us 60 days from day one because they actually believed in what me and Will were trying to do. We told them, look, this is what we're going to do. Lots of people are saying it's not going to work, but but these couple of companies did believe in us, and it did work, and we are still loyal to those companies. We now spend, with one of them, we spend £500,000 a year. You know, so
fair.
we have remained loyal, you know, ever since they showed loyalty to us, and we've returned that and built a fantastic relationship with them. But sometimes you've got to sell the idea to your suppliers as much as you have to the customers as well. If that makes
Nice.
I hope,
I think we've covered quite a lot there. Hopefully those found it helpful. But yeah, well, mate, Sam, thank you for coming on here today. I'm pretty sure people got a lot of value from that. I've been jotting down notes and stuff, and I guess just a quick overview. I like that you call your staff colleagues. That's pretty cool. The fact that Alan Sugar said that you need to hunt for talent instead of sort of cutting corners, or not cutting corners, but like trying to organically grow a team members, which is I see that a lot of people go headhunting. Your work ethic is there, so that's the other thing which a lot of people that want to get in business that either fail or don't is because they just don't have the work ethic. Like, you have no qualms in, you know, hustling and grinding and putting in the work. Like, to you know, rock up to a random boat company with 20 fishing rods and trying to figure out a sale and return deal, that would shit the pants. That would scare a lot of people. But like, it was just natural for you. So, so there's loads of nuggets here for those who are listening. So, what are you going to say, mate?
Oh no, I was just saying thank you. I hope some of that has helped people. But just making that point, I suppose, about the staff and going out and looking for quality. Obviously, we could only do that because we, I suppose, reached a size to do that. So we were on just over £2 million, and we had a bit more money to invest in staff. Obviously, I realise people can't do that from day one or even, you know, year 2 or 3. So you're going to have to do a lot to begin with. You're going to have to do most of it, if not all of it, yourself, and probably more, and work, you know, harder. I've got friends who don't really understand. Still to this day, they don't really know what, you know, the journey that we've been on. I've never really told anyone this story before. Yeah, they sort of saw bits, but, you know, they didn't know for sort of 3 years. Well, I wasn't out doing what most 21, 22-year-olds were doing. I wasn't out at clubs and pubs, and, you know, I was spending most of those years working. So, nice. But it's paid off now. It's paid off, and
you've been rocking up to play golf on random Wednesdays with me.
But we've and all the changes is the goalposts change. So we've reached this mark now, and we're looking beyond and beyond and beyond. So there's not really an end in sight as such. What I would say is always plan with a long-term view, and just keep moving those goals around slightly as you know, as you move through your timeline, because you'll have a plan, and it won't necessarily go completely how you mapped it out, but you might just have to adjust some things as you move through. So
yes. Mate, I've got one more question if you don't mind. And sorry folks, I think so this is a topic which people are very different on, and there's no correct answer, by the way. So no matter what Sam says, there's no correct answer. But I think it was Stuart yesterday who asked me how much planning I do with stuff. So how do you spend much time planning the future? How far ahead do you plan, or do you just go year by year?
Actually, that's a really good point, because there was something I did miss out of all of that. First, on the planning front, I don't believe you should obviously plan, but I don't believe in massive, long, waffling business plans.
Amen, brother.
So a business plan to me should just be something you can jot down on one A4 piece of paper. So for us, our mission was we wanted to become the biggest online retailer for bearings and transmissions, and that was simply, that's the main goal. And there was maybe sort of 10 things we had to do to get that thing started. So the key I find is you should have, it's what I call a to-do list. So we got into a habit, and I think, to be honest, I'm not going to take credit for this. I think I picked it up from someone like Peter Jones, reading one of his books. It could have been Duncan Bannatyne. I can't really remember now, but we have like a 100 things to do list, and they're not big things. They're sort of small and middle-sized things, but they're what I call improvements. So we will pick out 100 things we can improve. Now, it could be some stuff on the website, it could be some stuff within our marketing, and we'll slowly chip away at that list. And by the time we've done those 100 things, we should have something way better. But by the time you get to item 100, you've probably thought of another 100.
Things. So true.
So always have a running list, and it can be really small stuff, like you're on the website now. It could just be something like, we need to change those advertising banners on the homepage, to reflect a couple of the new manufacturers we're now dealing with. That is one thing. It could be we need to upgrade the photos in category 6 to some more high resolution images. They can be quite small things, but
adds up over time.
Exactly. So I believe in, no, you don't need a massive plan. You need a bit of a vision and a goal and a very sort of simple concept of how you're going to get there, or at least get it started. But then you've really just got to do it, because you can write a long plan and within a few weeks you could be ripping it to shreds, because nothing pans out how you plan it. Nothing does. So I believe in more to-do lists than a set-in-stone plan of action. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yeah. So keep the plan simple.
Sweet.
And adjust it as you go.
Amazing. Well, let's end it there. Thank you, and I really do hope people have taken a lot from this, and there are a lot of nuggets in here today, even if you don't think there are. There, I mean, I've just picked up. I've jotted all sorts down, but nice one. And remember, I want my £1,000 in £5 notes, please. No excuses. And 29th of March, game on. But
I don't think cash will exist by the time I win the £1,000 off you, will it?
Yeah, true. Nice. All right, mate. Have a good one.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Toodles. Bye.